Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I want to talk a little bit about process. This is nothing new today, but I want to talk rolled flowers. Um, Rolled flowers are really a great way to build your stash, right? Of flowers. Flowers are expensive. I love having different colors and sizes and so forth. But buying Prima flowers and things are kind of can be limiting. Um, and when you're making your own, you really have unlimited options. So I was struggling a little bit with really getting them to be realistic looking. So this is kind of what my flowers had been looking like. So kind of flat, if you will. Um, they're okay, but they can be better. And one of the things my husband has always said is, you need the right tool for the job, and it's true, whether it's in my kitchen, the garage, home improvement project, or my craft room, having the right tools really makes all the difference. And I did a little research to see what could I do to kind of elevate my flowers. And here's what I came up with. So I had been using dyes. This is just a simple rolled flower die that I've cut it out here. This particular flower was made with a cut file, same concept as the die, but just a slightly different petal. You can see a little bit longer petal than the die that I have. So this was a silhouette file that I purchased. So this really gives me the idea that I can make them as large or as small as I want, where this one is just going to be kind of what it is. There's a little bit of flexibility when you roll it. Now, everybody kind of knows with these you roll from the beginning. And what I had been doing is I was just taking a little dowel or a pencil and rolling it. Let me show you. So I was just kind of going, and I would start with a little pencil and I would start rolling. And you roll from the outside in, right? And then I would, maybe just even with my fingers and wrap it around, right? Training that paper. Now what happens here is you really don't get a tight center. Your center stays pretty big. And you can put a pearl or a, little, like glittered ball in the center to make that look better. Um, excuse me. One of the things that I found when I was doing some research online is using a quilling tool to really get that tight center. And what this is it's a little tool with a handle. And here you can see it's got a little bit of a slit where you can insert your paper and then roll it tight around this tiny little shaft here. Now there's a couple of different sizes you can see here. Let's see. Can you get that to focus? Some are, looks like a little tinier than others. What I actually did with this one is I just put a real thin little blade in there, and a knife, and just gave it a little bit of a tweak where I could get it just a little bit wider opening. So again, you want to be careful with your cardstock. Make sure that it fits in there easily. And then you can roll, and you see how much tighter that is. Now, one of the other things that I discovered to keep a nice tight center would be to add a little piece of glue about now. After you've maybe made 3 or 4 rolls, you'd add a little dot of glue. But you can keep rolling and, roll your whole flower up. And you're keeping everything nice and tight. You're training that paper to stay nice and rolled tightly. Now, I'm going to kind of keep everything flat here on the end. And as you get to the end, you can kind of pull out your tool. You've got a nice tight border there, and then your little center. You put your glue on, turn it over, and then you can let it kind of unroll here as much or as little as you want. So you do have a little bit of control over how big that flower actually gets. But you'd put your little dab of glue here and then kind of let it, you've got just a moment that you can let it unroll. Now that's all I did to get this, right? So we've got that flower shape, but it's a little flat. So that's when you take your tool again. Now I would do this typically after I glued my flower together, but then you come in and you use this on all of the little petals as you go around and just give them a little twirl. A little bit tedious. I like to do this when I'm watching TV. My husband likes me to be in the same room as him, you know, while he's watching TV so we can spend time together. But I can't sit still. So having something like this to do while I'm watching TV with him is really great. So like I said, normally you'd have this glued and you would go through, and that's what these are. So these are examples where I have gone in and I have curled all of the little petals around. And you see, it gives a much more natural flower. So we've got more curling out on the edges, a little less as you go in, but I did go all the way in and curl even the very center petals. And it gives me a much more realistic looking flower. So that's my my take here on what to do as far as getting your flowers to be a little bit more elevated. The other piece that I have, I bought these as well, and these are just, they're heavy, and they're little metal balls. And what you can do while your flower is still, before you roll it, you would take this on a foam mat, and depending on the size of your petal, this too can help train your paper to give you that curve on your petal that you're looking for. So I did find that these were very handy to have as well. So play around, find something that works for you. Like I said, I do like how these turned out. I'll show you one more. This is another silhouette file. And this is a different petal. You can see that this one has 3 petals as it goes around the rolled flower. This one was harder to curve the petals because the petals were simply bigger. So it was a little bit more challenging, but you can see I was able to curve all of those petals out on this flower as well. So thank you again for watching. Have a great day. Till next time.